Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to talk about something today that many of us struggle with. Many of us are afraid to admit it to anybody, even to ourselves. I am talking about imposter syndrome, where you feel that you're in a situation, but you really don't have the qualifications, or you're putting on a show, or are you? Are you? And that could go right from jobs to relationships and so much more. We're going to look at that through the eyes of somebody that coaches people all the time, helps them recognize their dreams. She is the right way to your dreams. Miriam Wright, our professional of the year, is with us today. Miriam, welcome back. How are you doing?
Very good. Thank you. How are you?
Very well, very well. And as soon as I hear those two words, imposter syndrome, right away, I think of people who I know that I believe are going through it. But many times it's not really legit. It's the thought that they're not good enough for the situation. Usually job. A lot of times people talk about that. What do you, and I know that we have a guest we're going to get to in just a moment to help us along the way here. But Miriam, what do you hear from people when it comes to imposter syndrome?
They are doubting themselves. They're not good enough. What if I do this? Are people going to laugh at me? Or people going to, judge me? They don't, to me, they don't know themselves good enough to realize that they can do that. And their mind is telling them, no, you're not good enough. Don't do this. They're going to laugh at you. And it's all a mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all a mindset.
I see that more and more, myself, others, that it isn't real. It's what you think, your perception. Many people think, well, let's look at the job situation, that I'm not qualified for that, but I'm doing it. They haven't fired me yet. I'm going. Now another year went by, another two, but they really are qualified, or they wouldn't have gotten hired in the first place.
Exactly.
Tammy is with us, and Tammy is somebody that is connected to you for a number of years. Tammy, how are you? Welcome.
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
So what's your connection? What's your connection to Miriam, and I guess to imposter syndrome? How can you help today?
Sure. Miriam and I met about 10 or 11 years ago. I'm running a group called Powerful Women Networking here in Orlando, and we met and we have a one-on-one, and we spoke like 2.5 to 3 hours, and we just became good friends, as you can tell. Years later, we're still here, and she began to have Powerful Women Networking. And she's just a beautiful person, and I love being connected with her. We feel like we're sisters. I myself dealt with imposter syndrome a good part of my life, up until my 30s, basically. And it didn't matter what training I got, right? I began getting therapy when I ended up in foster care at 15. And so I began to understand the mind a bit. But I got my bachelor's degree and my master's degree, and I've done intensive personal development for 20 years, and nothing was ever enough. It was that next thing. I wasn't old enough. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't quick-witted enough. I wasn't anything enough. And so I had to get more learning, more training, more. And I saw everyone else as better than me. And that's also how I was treated as a child. And so I learned all of the skills of all of that not enough, which is beautiful. And I've taken all of that training and I created my own company called Sparks Hope. And I created a program to help people who are dealing with that, because there's so many symptoms that come along with it. So many other effects, right? You're always waiting to be pulled out and pulled out as a fraud. You're always waiting to be told that you're not good enough or that you failed. You won't allow the positives to land. You won't see yourself as a success. There's this perfectionism, and there's no bar for it. It's always something to reach for and never attain.
Do you feel, through your experience and training in helping others, that a lot of these things that give us the imposter syndrome, or the the thought that I'm not good enough, which in my understanding is like the most major feeling that we all have. Most of us have that in some shape or form, but it all comes back it goes back to our childhood. It's something that got planted there. And I'm not talking about, major traumas or anything like that, but it can be. But does it go back to our childhood?
It does. If you think about it, it's as simple as how we've learned our language, right? There's the fundamental years from 0 to 7 or 0 to 9, depending on the maturity of the child. You see where our language came from. We learned how to speak, everything about it at that young age. And so there's so much that we learn during that time that we're not really aware of all the and all the beliefs that we made up about it. Sorry about that. And the problem is, because we did it at such a young age, our perception was also off. So these beliefs that we allowed in, we took in because we were 6 and 7 and 8, and it made sense that way. So for example, if someone's mean to me or kind of abrupt with me or, perfectionistic with me, that's just the way life is, although that was only mom. But who was mom when we're that age? Mom is our world. So we incorporate that at a subconscious level, and we're not aware of it. So we bring it up with us as we grow up, and we're continuing to function from that same belief, and we just don't even know we incorporated it then.
Yeah, the example that I always hear in my mind, and I experienced this to some degree from a teacher, but I'll go back to a younger perspective. To your point, Tammy, it's like a kid has done a painting and made the sky green. And mom says, that's, Jimmy, that's great. You did a great job. We know the sky we know it's blue. You know better than that. Come on. The parent didn't mean anything negative. It was just want Jimmy to know that the sky is really blue, but it doesn't matter. Jimmy, I wanted to make it green. But that little comment could plant a seed in a young child that, mom said I'm not good enough. I have to keep trying. I wanted to be a cartoonist before I got into broadcasting, and I wanted to do both. I knew from 9 years old, this is what I wanted to do. I'm not even kidding. But I was also drawing cartoons. The cartooning part of me was my therapy from my childhood. Parents got divorced and all of that. I just realized that recently, that's why I was drawing cartoons, to express. 11th grade comes along. I do a painting. This is a true story. I do a painting. Fall scene, wheatgrass. I lead you into the barn. Couldn't do the sky. It wasn't coming out right. So Ms. Meyer, my art teacher, 11th grade, is walking around checking everything out. And I'm like, Ms. Meyer, the sky's not coming out right. I don't know what it is. I'm trying to do the clouds. She takes the brush and it comes out fantastic. And in her coffee breath, she says to me, you know what you are? You are an underachiever. And it never left me.
Wow.
And I believe it turned to my perfectionism challenge, because a year later, and there's an article about my cartoons that were in a library, and the local paper did a story, and I still have it. It says in there, quote from me, I'm a perfectionist. And it definitely held me back in life. And I along the way have let that go in many regards. But I believe those things are what we're talking about here. And that can lead to imposter syndrome, that you feel that you're just not qualified, not good enough for any of this. Miriam, does this mirror the examples that we're giving, myself and Tammy, what you're hearing from people that you work with?
Yes, definitely. Definitely, yes. Professionalism.
Yeah.
Overworking themselves to accomplish something when they pretty much have already accomplished it.
Yep. Yep.
Discounting praises. People are telling you that you're doing something good, and in your mind it's like, no, this isn't, it's not good enough. I gotta do something else.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you internalize and say, they're just being nice. They don't really mean that.
Right. They're just trying to, be nice to me.
Just what you said brought the memory to me. I probably killed a forest in paper crumpled up in the garbage can when I drew cartoons, because And exactly what you said,
Mhm.
Miriam, they all look the same.
Yeah,
This one to this one, when I duplicated it to try and make it better, it was the same. Like if
it's
you
the
looked at it,
same.
you'd be like, what are you talking about? It's the same thing. Tammy, how do we move forward from these things, these limiting beliefs, that the chains that have been put on us that we worry about?
Well, it's really to create new understanding and new awareness, right? Understanding what you and I just talked about, what Miriam is presenting, this whole idea of realizing this was just something that was created as a limiting belief. That's all it is. It doesn't need a whole lot of, time spent being upset. Being able to take a look at that and understanding, oh, well, when someone is this particular way when I'm young, then maybe I connect that with, oh, well, now I understand I have to accept this when I'm in a loving relationship, or I have to accept this when I have an authority figure, or, instead of being able to say, no, this is just something I believed, it's a habit pattern, I can bring it up and I can shift it and make these changes and realize when I'm doing it. People who have high perfectionism often don't even think they have imposter syndrome. They
Mm.
think they're amazing. They just feel burnt out because they can never get it right. They wouldn't even use
Wow.
the word imposter syndrome. They would think that they're high confident oftentimes. And so it's being able to understand based on our results, this is what we're doing to ourselves. And so then once we're able to take a look at that without judgment, I help people to take a look at it like a scientist, like, oh, look, when I do this, that happens. Not like, oh, what the hell? I can't believe we've got to stop that because it continues the process. And then once we break that thought pattern and that behavior pattern, then we can take a look at how do we do it different. Taking a look at understanding how to respond to our emotions, how to respond to our thinking. This high self-critical that we're doing, where'd that come from? Kind of root some of that stuff out, change the perspective. And then all of a sudden, it's just like, wow, I don't feel that way anymore.
I never thought of that, where somebody may think they have nailed it. I'm good. I got it. Maybe they are, but they're burned. They're burned out because they're trying to keep achieving something, even though they've got it nailed down. If you could, Tammy, I'm gonna pose this question to both of you. Start with Tammy. If you could look back at your younger self now, you're face to face with your younger self, which is a technique in hypnotherapy, right?
Mhm.
What would you say to yourself?
Something I say every day, you're amazing. You're doing a great job. You're absolutely beautiful person inside and out. You have so much to offer. And take a look at what's needed out there. Don't worry about what you're thinking about you and all that stuff because you're fine. But I would also say get the help and get the support to guide you through this because you can't see these things on your own.
Hmm.
It's you're not broken. It's just a subconscious thing. It's a programming that you can't catch because it's behind you, it's behind your eyes within yourself. And so that was something I had to learn to realize all of that we're doing is negative self-hypnosis. That is all that we're doing. We don't realize it. And so
Hmm.
we able to see what does that even mean? So then we can shift it, change it, and step into positive self-hypnosis because most people think beating it up and making it wrong and shoving it away is the fix, when in actuality, that just continues the process.
Wow. Yeah, I never thought of that either. And I've had hypnotherapy before, and it was very helpful that we are hypnotizing ourselves to think things that aren't right, things that don't support us. It's a
Mhm.
form of hypnosis.
Yep.
Wow.
And we are doing it out of self-protection, however, because the subconscious mind as a little kid thought that would do it.
Yeah. You know, when somebody says to somebody else, "You're acting like a child," you are.
Mhm.
You really are. Miriam, you're facing yourself as a younger child. Let's say you're 7 or 8. What would you say?
I, excuse me, I used to tell myself, I'm not good enough. I'm not seen because I had two strong sisters on either side.
Hmm.
And so to me, it was easy to be quiet, to just, don't do anything, don't say anything, just, go off in my world. And it took actually my older sister leaving may she rest in peace, for me to step out and say, hey, I'm somebody. I mean,
Mm.
I can do this. I started a company. I'm on a podcast today. I am somebody.
Mm. I think that echoes. I think a lot of us, everything we're saying here, would say the same things to ourselves. And I've done this. I have a daughter who's 16. Tough age, especially nowadays for girls. And I try to instill in her. And this is what I would say to myself as a younger child. Don't worry what people think of you. Let it go. Like she'll be worried about what she looks like walking into the mall. We would just go to the mall. I'm like, they don't care.
Right.
They're not looking at you. Just don't even give it a thought. And I think the other thing I would say to myself is, I'm there for you. I got you.
Yes. Yes.
Because when it comes down to it, nobody has your back better than you.
But
But when you're a kid and you're going through stuff, you don't understand things or whatever, you kind of feel lost. I don't know, it's that, I heard this thing said, you could be passing by the kitchen and mom or dad said something and it wasn't even for you, but you internalized it.
you
And now
heard
you
it.
you
Yes.
keep it inside.
Yes.
Tammy, what are there other techniques? Of course, hypnotherapy, very, very helpful. And I want to share with you what you just said before. I'm in a men's group, and we said the other day, you need to walk in front of the mirror and say to yourself, you're awesome. I love you.
Yes. Yeah.
These men can't do it.
Sticky notes.
Half of them said, I could try. I don't think I could do it. Grown men. And I believe that's true of all of us. It's easier said than done. All right, go in front of the mirror right now and every single day do that. I think a lot of us are uncomfortable. But nobody has to hear it. But thoughts on that, Tammy? How we can help ourselves on a regular basis, short of, let's say, hypnotherapy is great, but short of that, what could we do?
Well, first, everyone needing to know they're practicing hypnotherapy all the time, right? So when they go in front of the mirror, speak the truth. If I don't feel like I love myself, I need not say that. But I can say what I do love about myself. I love that you're taking care of your family. I love that you got up today. I love that. So speak into whatever the truth is until it gets stronger and stronger.
Okay.
And we need to be mindful to never say don't. The subconscious mind doesn't hear the negatives. So instead of saying, don't think about what what these other people think about you, what might they be thinking about you instead? Might they not be thinking about you at all? But if they do think about you, I bet they like your nails. I bet they think your hair is pretty. I bet they like your eyes. I bet they wonder where you got your shoes. Like giving something else, and putting that energy out there brings it back to us. So really changing the way that we're thinking and to practice talking to ourselves the way we would talk to a best friend. If we wouldn't talk to that best friend that way, then we would. One of the statements that I say to my clients, it sounds silly. We think that we need to treat people kindly, but we don't think of ourselves as a people. So moving forward, you get to think of yourself as a people, and how would you treat those people, including you? And for some who are parents, I say imagine. So you're a dad. I'd say imagine you have a son, and his name is Steve. And he can't do anything without you. He can't get up without you. He can't brush his teeth without you. He can't wipe his hiney without you. And he certainly can't speak kindly to himself without you. How are you going to treat him today? From the moment you open your eyes to the time you go to bed.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah. Well, I guess it comes down to that phrase that goes around from time to time, reparent yourself, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Because we're still kids. Let's be honest. We're still kids. We never outgrew those things that are in our childhood. And the subconscious, let's in just a second laser for anybody that doesn't understand the subconscious, what it does and what it doesn't do. Like you said before, it doesn't know the difference between the negativity. It just wants the best for you. It's trying to support you. But how would you describe, I just ran into you, Tammy, heard about this thing called the subconscious. What do I need to know?
I would say think about your conscious as the mind part of us talking right now. You're aware of it. Think about your subconscious as your file cabinet. It holds every bit of information from the time you were born, before actually when you were in your mommy's tummy, all the way through to the rest of your life. It keeps that data. It doesn't decide if it's, negative or positive. It does it based on what feels safe. And so along the way, there's some truths that are, or some things that are not true that it's also storing there. And so that's where the blocks come from. And so we bring that information forward to the conscious mind, but the conscious mind can only hold about 7 to 9 units of information. Some science says 70 to 90, but either way, it's still a small amount. When you bring one thing forward, you got 20 other thoughts coming off of that one thing. And so that information has to go back for new information to come forward. Which is why in the morning, after a few thoughts, we're like, holy heck, my mind is exhausted already because it's done this, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So your subconscious mind holds that information, and it's like a child. It pulls up the information. If we tell it it's right or wrong, it's just going to be like, no, my mommy said this was right. It believes that the information it has is correct. So the only way to change it is through reprogramming, like kind of helping it to re-understand and to shift that. But it has to trust, it has to feel safe. And that's when the information can change. But also because it's on the subconscious level, we often need someone else to be able to point it out to us when we're doing it. And a lot of people do not know how to do that. They might go, like you said, why are you acting like a kid? I'm not acting like a kid. Well, because even if we feel we're acting like a kid. So we also need to realize how to work with that information in our subconscious mind. There's nothing wrong with it. Some of it's just incorrect. That's all.
No, it's there for reference, I guess, because your subconscious wants to protect you.
100%.
Yes.
So, like you
Yes.
said, the file cabinet, it's just storing that information. You might need it sometime, in a situation. However, a lot of the information is outdated, doesn't support you, and your subconscious doesn't understand. It doesn't know the difference, like you just said with the wording. And to your point, I should have rephrased that instead of "don't worry what people think about you." I once had a conversation with my daughter about a year ago, and typical, like, "How was your day?" Not the right question to ask. Because what do you get? It's all right.
Fine.
Yeah, exactly. But I changed it. I changed it around once, and I said, and I would say, about the way she looks and everything, because I want to, show her positivity, and really, that's how I feel. I think she's beautiful. Yeah, she's my daughter, but she is. And then I flipped it around and I said, "What's it like to have the most amazing hair of anybody on this planet?" And that just, well, I used a different conditioner today, and I did this and I did that. But just reframing it. Maybe we need to reframe how we talk to ourselves.
And yeah, that's why I wanted to emphasize that. Ask her, tell me why I love you so much. Tell me, just like you said, tell me what it's like to have amazing hair. Tell me what it's like to do so great in science or whatever it is. Tell me what it's like to love art. And then that automatically steps someone into, oh yeah, I'm someone who loves art. And then they're in that place that they love. That's perfect. I love that you called that.
Thank you for today. Learned a lot. I got to say, for you, Tammy, I've talked to a lot of hypnotherapists. We didn't go into the other credentials you have. You make it so easy to understand and applicable to our lives. And Miriam, just on the coaching level and the understanding of all of this, fantastic. Miriam, how do we connect with you? Somebody wants to even start the just coaching process, changing their lives, moving things forward, coming closer to their dreams, maybe confronting the imposter syndrome. How do they find you?
My website is Right Way to Your Dreams, right with a W, rightwaytoyourdreams.com. My email is coachmiriammw@gmail.com. And my phone number is 407-216-9129.
And Tammy, if somebody wants to connect with you, how do they do that?
Sure. And I just want to say Miriam's amazing. Anyone would love to work with her.
Yeah.
My Sparks Hope, they just look me up at sparkshope.life, LIFE, or at Coach Tammy Starr on any social media. They can also reach me there. Plus my cell phone. I'm a cell phone girl. Text me anytime. 954-657-3407.
Yeah. Thank you. And Miriam, past podcasts, we've been talking about dreams and the acronym for DREAMS. It's been great. Want to find it? Just do a search. It's out there.
Yes.
Thank you again for today. I have to have a conversation with myself later on, like we talked about. And I think we all should do that. And I
Yes,
appreciate it.
we
Thanks
should.
again.
Thank you,
Thank
Steve.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
Miriam.
you. Have a good one.
You too. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.